in my estimation, you're engaged, which means you're in a committed relationship. You're on the clock working for an employer, and yet you're pulling into a parking lot to have sex with someone that you don't know. So that's more than not thinking and making bad choices. And, you know, you do have a criminal history that dates back to 92. You've had 3 felony convictions, a bunch of misdemeanors. But interestingly, in the report, it stated that out of all of this, you've only served up until this point 99 days, and you've been on probation.
And we're about to watch the parole hearing of a man who has a long criminal history, a jacket loaded with crimes, yet somehow he's been able to only serve 90 days in jail up until now, when he was finally sentenced 3 years and 6 months in prison. But listen to this. He was only sentenced 5/2 of 2023 and already having his parole hearing on 12/13/2024. And in my opinion, he does not take accountability for the crimes that he committed. But I'll unpack with what details we have at the end.
Vaughan Grubb, 230000.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Vaughan Grubb, inmate number 230000. He is serving a sentence of 10 years executed suspended after 3.5 years jail with 10 years probation for sexual assault in the 2nd degree. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of December 1st, 2024. There's no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed. It shows the offender has completed the short track sex offender program. Utilizing a statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score on the SRT falls within the low range of risk for recidivism. Utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the low to moderate range. This is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Tell us why you think you deserve parole, sir.
Okay, all right. I'm a person who should have made better choices and made bad decisions. I'm not perfect. I hold myself accountable for my actions. I'm very remorseful. I'm sincerely sorry. And I have remorseful what my actions, what occurred between me and the victim. And how you can believe that if I had known the truth about the victim, it would have never happened. I'm not a threat to women or society. I would like to say to the victim, if I could, I'm sorry. I hope this didn't traumatize her in any way or affect her in her life. If she has any children, especially a little girl, I hope she raises her and teaches her self-respect, self-worth, and self-value, and not to make the same choices she had made in her life. I'm not a person who is in and out of jail. This is not my life. I have not been incarcerated in 23 years. I'm a family-oriented man who works for a living, which I have both of my employments waiting for me when I get home. While incarcerated, I carry myself responsibly and have obeyed all rules and show respect to other inmates and staff. I also learned a new skill in sewing, which by working in the clothing factory. I attended and completed my mandatory program successfully. The program has been beneficial to me. It has taught me skills I will utilize in my everyday life. I have learned how to recognize my distorted ways of thinking and how my actions can affect other people and how their boundaries can be violated. It has showed me how to recognize my bad risk factors in situations, and by not putting myself in a bad situation, not thinking of the consequences, realizing my good risk factors by eliminating myself altogether. There's always alternative ways to handling situations. Medically, I am in remission for B-cell lymphoma. I have a dilated artery.
Mr. Grubb, just so that you know, our hearings are shown to the public, meaning they can watch your hearing over and over again and get any of the information that we discuss here. So
to protect you and your privacy, I just want to caution you about declaring over the internet to the whole wide world what medical conditions you have.
Okay,
So if you wish to continue, that's your choice. However,
okay.
I have to let you know. You're welcome.
All right. Incarceration is detrimental to my health. I need to get back to my physicians to get better and accurate care. I've never been in this situation before. If granted parole, this will be my first time on parole and will be my last. I understand parole is a privilege and there will be stipulations, rules, and regulations with which they will be obeyed. I have no anticipation of violating parole. My family needs me. I asked to be granted parole so I can get back to my life as a husband, father, and a productive citizen of society. I hope in your eyes I have earned the opportunity to be granted parole and completed successfully.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grubb, for that statement. While we appreciate your disclosing your medical conditions, we really don't take those things into consideration for discretionary parole. We have different like medical and compassionate parole to address those type things. So what's going to happen here is each of us will take an opportunity to ask you some questions, and when we're done, we will deliberate and give you our decision. All right? I wish you the best, and I'm going to start with the questions. I've noted that you had a breach of peace when you were convicted of this offense. Was that domestic violence related? An assault on an elderly victim or a pregnant person, 12/22/17. That's not you?
12/22/17.
Yes, breach of peace.
Breach of peace.
An assault third.
In what year?
2017.
I think that was an incident with my daughter, but she wasn't pregnant. But
it
that I knew of at the time.
Yeah. It said elderly victim. What happened with that case?
I got probation.
No, I'm asking you what happened. What occurred?
I don't remember what the elderly person. Oh, the guy. I delivered papers, and I parked in like a crosswalk, and the guy was upset at the fact that I parked in the crosswalk. So he basically hit my car with keys. I got out of the car. We had words. I got out of the car to check my car to see what. I told him not to come towards me.
I get it. It's okay. It's okay. I was asking to see if it was domestic violence related. So I appreciate your apology in your opening statement. And I also can appreciate your saying that this is not your typical kind of behavior. You apologize to the victim for taking advantage of her and the future impact that your actions will have on her. And in essence, Mr. Grubb, they will be lifelong. Whether it was your intention or whether or not you knew, it's your responsibility to know who you're having sexual intercourse with. That's why you can't just randomly pick people up and put yourself in that kind of position I mean, if you would have known this young lady, you would have known that she was not of age. Explain to us today, what is consent? How can a person consent to have sex?
Saying yes.
There's other factors into saying yes.
Same age. We basically agree on the same things. We have.
No, consent. When I said what consent is, by the law, they have to be of age. You have to be of age. They can't be inebriated and not know what the heck is going on and that you're taking advantage of them. Those could result in crimes.
I agree.
So you're married now. I know that you have children. I also heard you talking about your stepchildren. It really is your responsibility to know the person that you're laying down with. And I would assume that now that you're a married man, it would only be with your wife. Exactly. I can only assume that. So you know that you're going to have to complete the sex offender treatment out in the community, right?
Yes,
Okay. You know that our job here today is not to determine whether or not you're guilty or innocent.
right,
Okay. So to us, you pled guilty to this case, whether it be Alfred or whatever the case may be. So for us, should we grant you discretionary parole, even on probation, sir, you're going to have to do the treatment. And ultimately
I know.
they'll tack you up to a lie detector test, and they will determine whether or not you're telling the truth or not. Regardless of, you're going to have to do treatment. And are you opposed to that?
Yes.
You are opposed to it.
No, I'm not opposed to it. I agree with it.
Okay. And
Yeah, excuse me, I'm nervous.
no,
Very
it's
nervous.
okay. It's okay. I promise you not to bite. I have to be honest with you, sir. I mean, from reviewing your file, I am not opposed to granting your discretionary parole. I really do want you to understand, though, that there are conditions, as you stated in your opening statement, that you are going to have to abide by. Life as you knew it before is going to be completely different for the next at least 10 years. So you know what the sex offender registry is?
Yes,
You know that you're required to appear on that.
yes,
Does your wife know that they can come to your house and check at any time?
yes,
You realize that you have to register, every 3 months? You have to update your address?
yes.
And if you move to Massachusetts, they want to know where you are in Mass. It's that serious, because the last thing that you want is failing to register and you'll be back in prison.
I know that.
And how do you plan on navigating the no contact with minors?
I don't involve myself with mine. This was something that happened, and
No, I'm not saying that's not my question, sir. I'm not asking you if you like minors. I'm asking you, your grandkids, your children are all adults. How are you going to navigate this condition that you are not allowed to be around minors without
Oh, I would
permission?
leave. I would leave. I would leave that situation.
Right.
I would leave that situation.
Ms. Sasso?
Hello, Mr. Grubb.
Hello.
So were you married at the time of the offense?
No, we were engaged.
Okay. So when you were asked about this in one of the reports, you said you weren't thinking. And in my estimation, you're engaged, which means you're in a committed relationship. You're on the clock working for an employer, and yet you're pulling into a parking lot to have sex with someone that you don't know. So that's more than not thinking and making bad choices. And, you do have a criminal history that dates back to 92. You've had 3 felony convictions, a bunch of misdemeanors. But interestingly, in the report, it stated that out of all of this, you've only served up until this point 99 days.
Yeah.
And you've been on probation.
Yeah.
So you've really dodged a few bullets in the past. And so my question, after reviewing your file, is how has this period of incarceration changed your thought process, and how is that going to look when you come out?
My thought process is, I'm not a person who involves myself into criminal activity. I go to work every day. I'm very content with coming home and being with my family and being with my wife. Being here, being incarcerated, being taken away from everything is I want to close this chapter and put this behind me and move on with my life as I was, being a working man and being a productive citizen. Being incarcerated is not something that I want to keep on continuing doing. I made bad choices in my life and don't continue. There was a time period where I haven't been in trouble for like 10 years. And it's something that.
What do you attribute that to? What was going on in that 10 or 12-year period that you managed to stay clear of trouble?
My kids and getting out of from where I was at from being around people that I was around. I stopped hanging around people I was hanging around. I met my wife, and I was a family man. That's what I intend on continuing doing.
So,
Being
You
in
know,
the street, being in the
Okay.
streets and running around is not something that I do.
so being incarcerated is punishment for your actions, and it seems like you've acknowledged that because this
Very
has
much
affected
so.
you.
Very much so. Very much so.
You've expressed remorse, but we don't, I believe, have an official victim statement today, but the victim has also been likewise affected. I believe that there's some ongoing issues, and we've heard from some of the people involved that she continues to suffer this day. So you're suffering because you've had loss of freedom and you've been removed from your family and friends, but this victim is going to carry with her, regardless of her role and what happened as a young girl, she's going to carry that with her for a long time. So all of this is because of what happened. And as you put it, I wasn't thinking. So my concern in sitting here today is understanding that you understand how to better handle situations. And maybe this was a one-off, I don't know, but I need to know in determining your suitability that we aren't going to see you again for this or any other type of offense to the community. So, okay, so I get it. I do see that you're appearing sincere. You've had letters of support from your family, your brother, your daughter, and they've stuck by you. So I'd like to understand what your expectations are. How are you going to meet their expectations? Tell me about what your transition plan is as if you were granted parole.
Not to disappoint them again.
How difficult was it to talk about this instant offense to your family? How did you tell them about this? And how did that make you feel?
Well, when I found out that I was going to be incarcerated, I basically told them what happened and the circumstances. But I really haven't told my kids, but my brother and my wife, they basically know. Because I wanted to come in and then go out and then explain it to my kids. But my wife, the elders of my family knows.
How old are your kids?
My oldest is 33, the next is 24, 2 is 21, and my son is 19, and my deceased son would have been 19, 18.
You don't think they've looked you up or Googled it or looked into any of the court records? You don't think they know about what this offense is related to? I mean, they're not young kids.
I think my oldest daughter knows, but not the rest of them. Two of my kids know, but not all of them know.
So why do they think you're in jail?
I guess so.
Okay. So I think, if your intention is to come out and have real conversations about how you've changed and how you're going to conduct your life, I can appreciate that. But understand that there was a victim who is suffering, is engaging in self-harm, might have moved away. Her parents are dealing with this issue as well. And I think that it's important for you to realize that there's a victim, but there's victims in your family, there's victims in the community, and I need to be assured that this was something that is never going to occur again in the course of the rest of your life. I mean, this was a serious offense, regardless of what you knew of the circumstances at the time. So if you feel as if, is there anything else that you can add in terms of your job, and do you have verified employment? What was that you were going to do?
Deliver papers and medication.
You're gonna go back to the job that you had?
Yes.
Was that the same job? Okay. Okay. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Sasso.
Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Poole. Mr. Grubb, give us a few minutes to talk about your case. We'll give you our decision shortly. Please don't interrupt. You can listen though. All right. I think that you all heard my concerns, well, my position. I really am willing to support Mr. Grubb's discretionary parole. I really believe that his being on parole would provide a heightened sense or level of supervision with the special management unit to get to the bottom of these behaviors and hopefully address them so that they can never occur again. He is going to have to take the program regardless of our vote. But why not let him go ahead and get started and go back out and work? What are your thoughts, Ms. Besser?
I would agree.
Agreed.
I have no minors, problem, sexual behavior treatment, and no victim.
Right.
He's going back to his wife. I move that Vaughan Grubb 230000 be granted discretionary parole on or after today's date, which is December 13th, 2024, because its eligibility date is passed. With the following conditions, in addition to the standard parole conditions, you are to have no contact with minors without parole officer's permission, no contact with your victim. Her initials are AO. You'll participate in problem sexual behavior treatment in the community.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Through the chair,
Yes.
within the sentencing documents, there was reference to a no contact with a Robert Shoemaker. Do you know who Robert Shoemaker is?
That was, I believe that was the person that you were talking about earlier, the incident with the,
Yeah.
I remember, I recall that name. I'm not
He
sure
doesn't-
if that's his name, but he's the only person.
He doesn't know who that. I mean, he knows who.
We don't need.
Yeah.
And actually, I think he passed away from COVID.
Is all those in favor? Aye. So, Mr. Grubb, you have a protective order with your daughter. It looks like until 2028. So you need to be mindful of that. And also, who are initials AP? Don't say the name. Just who do you know who? I just want you to be mindful. It may have been a domestic. But anyway, just be cautious out there when you're engaging with people because you're going to be closely monitored. All right, good luck to you, sir. You can ask the officer to send the next person in.
Close the hearing. 23000.
You're all set. Thank you.
So what do I do now? Somebody,
An officer will meet with you to get your sponsor information. So it's not going to happen today. But it will happen shortly. All right, good luck, sir.
thank you, thank you.
Yes.
Yours. So I'm next.
Okay, and they paroled, and I don't have much to unpack on this case. There's really not any information. I thought, for one, it was interesting that he has a DOC number of 2300023 or 230,000. That's certainly interesting. But there was one thing that I picked up, and that's in his opening statement. In his opening remarks, of which he spent like 90% talking about poor me and my health. It's like, shut up, I fast forwarded it for you. But he says, I hope that if the victim has a daughter one day, she can teach her not to make the same choices that she made in her life.
If she has any children, especially a little girl, I hope she raises her and teaches her self-respect, self-worth, and self-value, and not to make the same choices she had made in her life.
I cannot believe that he uttered those words. Like, it's so insane on so many levels. And the idea the parole board just must have missed it. They must have missed it because it was so insane to even like talk to her. Like, I don't know, where did he start? But he's blaming her. He's blaming her, tying in a future potential daughter and blaming her. I couldn't believe it. But this guy, as you can see, had been getting away with it forever and only had served like 100 days in jail. He never even got a prison sentence, even though he had multiple felonies and a long like criminal history. but he kept being able to get away with it. And eventually he gets a 3-year, 6-month sentence, sentenced 5/2/2023, but paroled early, of course. And after serving, really, if time served, he would have ended up serving like 1.5 years. So again, in my mind, he gets away with it. I don't think he's held himself accountable. I thought it was a really ridiculous hearing and horrible, actually. And not taking accountability, full of manipulation, criminal mind, all that stuff. But I have no other info to share on the case. So what can I say? It is what it is. And I did search him up before doing this hearing because it's now 5/19/2025, so it's quite some time later. What is it? It is like 6 months later, but I don't see anything, so he's still out for now, and we'll keep you posted. If he does come back, we'll put it in the return note. But I actually think he's slimy enough not to come back, if you know what I mean. I think he'll figure out not to. He's shown that he's known how to play the system. With that, I'll let you go.
If she has any children, especially a little girl, I hope she raises her and teaches her self-respect, self-worth, and self-value, and not to make the same choices she had made in her life.